Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a source that is, well, it's pretty different from what we usually
Go
tackle.
for it.
It's a personal survival diary posted from Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, India, and it's titled Art of War Things That You Don't Learn in MBA Chapter 18.
Right. So not your typical business case study.
Not at all. I mean, forget corporate strategy. This diary lays out years of what the author describes as this relentless, strategic and super localized conflict.
And the backstory is key here.
It is. The author is starting over at age 40, right out of a really brutal 7-year divorce battle, only to walk straight into, well, a continuous campaign of harassment. So our mission today is to dig into this intense story and pull out the surprising, the non-traditional MBA lessons, the wisdom that comes from just pure endurance.
It's a fascinating look at micro-warfare, really, and the timeline alone sets the stage. Since 2015, the author claims they're facing daily local resistance, silent attacks, mind games, unseen forces, every day. And what I think is really interesting is why they published it now. They say it very clearly. The decision to speak out was because silence was being mistaken for weakness.
So it's a strategic move in itself.
Precisely. And that's really what we're digging into today, how someone turns all this this awful personal stuff into actual actionable knowledge.
Exactly. So let's start there. Let's map the battlefield, because we're not talking about, a simple neighborhood dispute.
Not even close.
The source makes it sound like this is a highly organized multi-front war. So what is the sheer breadth of the opposition the author is dealing with? How can we even categorize it for you?
Well, the author lists about 12 distinct sources. Yeah, and they make a point to say they're all tangled, all strategic.
Yeah.
But for our purposes, we can probably group them into, let's say, 4 main operating realities.
Okay.
So first, you've got the echoes from past battles. Professional, legal, think old business rivals popping up again, car-selling agents with maybe hidden motives.
And the divorce stuff still lingering.
Exactly. The ghosts of the past, as the author puts it, coming back to haunt the present.
Okay, so that's one. And then the conflict, it seems to shift from the past to the very local, the very physical.
That's the second reality, direct local pressure, intimidation. This is where you see real estate agents trying to pressure them to move out.
Right.
You see local toughs or soft gundas, as the author calls them.
Soft gundas, I like that.
It's a great term. And they're just, flexing their power. Then you've got people with, say, political agendas trying to turn the neighbors against the author.
So actively trying to isolate them.
Completely. Fracturing that community support structure.
And then the third category sounds, well, even more sinister, the covert stuff.
It is. This is the psychological warfare, the stuff aimed at your sanity, your reputation. The author talks about these really sophisticated chains of gossip, whisper campaigns, antisocial types hiding behind a friendly face, and even subtle mental tricks like hypnotic words or emotional triggers.
And I think it's important here that we acknowledge, as analysts, some of these claims are, well, they're very subjective.
Of course.
Especially the psychological ones. But whether they're objectively verifiable or not, the point is the author perceives them. And that perception is what drives these extreme survival strategies.
That is the core insight. The perceived reality is what matters. And speaking of the subjective, that brings us to the last category, which the author just calls the bizarre.
Okay.
This is where they report dealing with the shadow of black magic, tantrics, strange rituals being performed near their house at night. It's a lot.
Wow. So it's this feeling of a total multi-spectrum threat, from financial to, well, metaphysical.
You've got it. The environment feels completely weaponized.
That level of friction is just stunning. So let's move on to the physical side of this. What's the tangible evidence, the concrete scars that have been left since 2015?
The list is pretty chilling. On the tech front, it's all about disruption. The author reports constantly dealing with phone jammers, Wi-Fi hacks, Bluetooth interference.
Just constant noise.
Constant. And maybe the most telling detail is that they watched 6 different phones just die in 1 year. 6. And the author asks, is someone testing how long you'll last?
That's a huge cost. I mean, financially, obviously, but psychologically, too.
Absolutely. And that disruption then moves from the digital to the physical, to their actual property.
Right.
Since 2015, the diary mentions 6 tire punctures, multiple car scratches, all within just a 4-month period. And every time, officially, it was just a coincidence?
Of course. Coincidences.
Add to that reports of what they call planned accidents and finding straight new numbers just added to their WhatsApp lists.
Yeah.
It paints this picture of constant monitoring and sabotage.
And things escalated more recently, right?
Yeah.
That's what led the author to finally go to law enforcement.
Yes, exactly. To formally request surveillance. Because the discoveries became, frankly, much more disturbing.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about finding broken rocks on the terrace, a used syringe thrown near the wall, discarded tobacco packets, condom covers near the gate. But the worst, the most violating discovery was finding burned diapers and feces placed right on the compound wall.
That's not just harassment. That is a direct psychological attack, a violation designed to shock and provoke.
It is. And it's when the pressure gets to that level that you're forced to make a big philosophical shift.
You'd have to.
And yet, even in the middle of all this seriousness, the author finds these little notes of local irony. They mention something called the Dottie Moondew series.
What's that?
They describe seeing groups of men just walking past their gate, but with their hands tucked inside their mundu. And the author interpreted this not as just, a normal walk.
But as a performance.
Yes, as a form of local mockery, a kind of theatrical intimidation disguised as an everyday thing. It just shows how deep the psychological conflict went.
So when you're facing that level of sustained pressure, psychological, financial, physical, where the world itself feels weaponized,
Yeah.
you can't just fight every fire.
You can't.
It has to force a total overhaul of your philosophy, your personal contracts. So what did that MBA wisdom, those scars with wisdom stitched into them, actually look like?
That's the heart of it, isn't it? The first big lesson is all about becoming conflict-proof through radical self-sufficiency.
Okay.
The author realized that economic vulnerability is your single greatest weakness. So the advice is stark, but it's incredibly practical. Always have your own income, your own savings.
Independent of anyone else.
Absolutely. And they stress this, especially before marriage. Have both a personal bank account and a joint one.
Which isn't anti-romance, it's
Conflict Management 101 is building a financial escape route before you even know you need one. So if that joint structure falls apart, your own economic reality is still intact.
And it's not just about the money, is it? The mental resilience side seems just as critical.
Oh, for sure. The author makes a point to say that even in the middle of this decade-long fight, you have to actively carve out time for God, family, health, hobbies.
The strategic maintenance of the self.
Exactly. You have to define success not as winning, but as just maintaining your own balance while the storm rages around you.
Okay, but let's get into what might be the most intense section of this whole diary.
The checklist.
The 10 things I wish I knew before saying I do. This feels like pure, critical due diligence with all the romanticism stripped away.
It's the ultimate lesson in treating a relationship like a serious contract. Which it is.
So what's the most, I guess, shocking piece of pre-marriage advice in there?
It has to be the lesson in consequences.
Yeah.
The author literally advises anyone thinking of getting married to go visit a family court.
Just go watch.
Yes. Go see Reality at 11 a.m. on any weekday before you sign your own papers.
Why?
Because you need to see the institutional reality of divorce, the cost, the bitterness, the exhaustion. You have to internalize the worst-case scenario to understand the weight of the contract you're entering.
That is intense. But it's about perspective.
It is. And then there's the financial side of that contract. The author learned this the hard way. If any one family, a partner, gives you money, gold, property, get it legally recorded immediately. Don't rely on trust.
Have a paper trail.
And have a pre-agreement. The author says if the word prenup sounds harsh, just call it survival.
And this checklist, it goes way beyond money. It gets into personal lifestyle compatibility.
Oh, it gets very personal. Because true due diligence isn't just about shared interests. It's about knowing someone's deepest realities.
Things like
Clarifying views on celibacy, knowing their sexual preference, binary or non-binary, making sure the love is based on free will, not manipulation.
these aren't things you're supposed to just discover later on.
According to the author, no. They're essential contractual elements.
Yeah.
You need to know your partner's core habits. Eating, sleeping, thinking, spending, all of it.
So the ultimate takeaway, stripped of all the emotion, is just love is pure, but paperwork protects your peace.
That's the line. And it applies to so much more than just marriage.
To any high-stakes contract, really.
Which brings us to that incredibly sharp note to parents.
This might be one of the most philosophical bits of advice in the whole thing. If you're buying your kid an expensive bike, say a 2 to 4 lakh rupee machine.
You take him somewhere first.
Right. To a trauma care center or an accident claims court. why is that such crucial non-MBA wisdom?
Because it forces them to confront the consequences before the adrenaline rush. It's risk management, taught through experience. You're not just teaching them how to ride, you're teaching them the full spectrum of liability.
Letting them see what happens when the high-speed dream hits the hard reality of asphalt?
And institutional bureaucracy. It's about understanding the stakes of your decisions before they become permanent.
So it's the same principle as visiting the family court before marriage, just applied to everything. Preparation via shock therapy.
Exactly. And this realization, this focus on inescapable consequences, it led the author to a total philosophical pivot. After years of asking that desperate question, why me?
Which is exhausting.
It's strategically useless. So they stopped, and they shifted to this pragmatic, faith-based approach. Okay, God, what next?
A shift from being a victim to being a survivor.
From why me to what next? That's the key. It reclaims your agency and puts the focus back on your own response, your own forward movement.
And this ties right into the author's view of karma, which they don't see as some vague concept.
Not at all. They see it as an active, local force that is constantly delivering, for better or worse.
So what's an example of that?
Well, on the negative side, for years, someone was allegedly throwing nails and broken glass on the road near their house. Then one day, the author starts seeing that same debris right in front of the suspected person's own house. And the diary's conclusion is just simple and stark. Karma just delivers. It's just an observation.
And that contrasts with a more active, positive kind of karma.
Yes. This is the author's own philosophy of enduring cleanly. They encourage this quiet, intentional action. If you see nails or broken glass on the road, stop. Pick it up.
Not for you, but for someone else.
To save someone else's tire, or maybe even their life. And the wisdom here is that is good, karma quiet, clean, and powerful. It's about taking constructive action, no matter what you're facing yourself.
That really summarizes the whole takeaway on strength, doesn't it? The diary is a testament to resilience.
It really is.
The author concludes that every strange, disturbing event, whether it was tech sabotage or, finding things on the wall, it all ultimately rebuilt their strength.
And that final line is so powerful.
Surviving isn't weakness, it's courage in disguise.
And this deep dive, it's given us a startling amount of actionable knowledge from one very personal story. We went from mapping a complex local war to the evidence of harassment, all the way to these high-level lessons on financial independence and philosophical endurance.
It just proves that the art of war principles, they really do apply everywhere. Whether your battle is in a boardroom or on your compound wall in the Rivananthapuram, it's all about preparing for life's inevitable conflicts.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you. It comes from the author's advice to people who rely only on muscle power. Money and strength can vanish overnight. Destiny always surprises. So if we take that wisdom seriously, the question for you is, how can you apply this principle of emotional and financial paperwork, that idea of pragmatic preemptive preparation, to protect your own peace today against the conflicts you don't even see coming yet?
That's the essential lesson from the wreckage. Translate your own scars into actionable wisdom. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.